August 6, 1861, a king put his mark on a piece of paper, and Lagos, the land, the port, everything becomes property of the Queen of England. His payment? About £1,000 a year. £1,000 a year? For Lagos? The Lagos where today £1,000 cannot even buy you a land the size of one's bathroom. But before you vex, hold on. Because the real question is not even how much Lagos sold for. The real question is, was it even easy to sell? To answer that, we need to go back, way back, before the bridges, before the traffic, before anybody was shouting, Costain, Costain, Costain. Long ago, there was no Lagos, just islands, swamps and lagoons. The first people to look at this waterlogged place and say, yes, we will stay here, were the Awori, a Yoruba group migrating south. Their tradition says their leader was guided by a mystical plate placed on the river. Wherever the plate sank, that's where they would settle. It traveled through Isheri, through Ebute Metta, until finally it sank near Ido. The Awori settled, and they fished. That was Lagos for version 1.0. Fishermen, canoes, and peace of mind. Then one day, visitors arrived, not tourists, warriors. From the mighty Benin Empire to the east, one of the most powerful kingdoms in West Africa, with an Oba whose reach was long. Benin turned the island into a war camp. In fact, one story says that's where the real name of Lagos comes from, Eko, was said to be from the Benin word for war camp. Others say Eko comes from Oko, the Yoruba word for farm. Historians still argue about it. What nobody argues about is this: Eko is the original name. Lagos came later. Benin didn't just camp and go. They installed a ruler, a man called Ashikpa, and from him came the line of the Obas of Lagos. So now the fishermen are the king, and the king answered to Benin. Remember this, it will matter later. So where did Lagos come from? Portuguese sailors. In the 1400s, they reached these waters, saw lagoons everywhere, and named the place after a port town back home in Portugal, Lagos. The name entered the map. The Portuguese didn't stay, but their name did. And unfortunately, so did their business. Because over the following centuries, Lagos grew into something dark, a major part in the Atlantic slave trade. Human beings sold from this same island. Kings and chiefs grew rich from it. European ships kept coming. This is the uncomfortable chapter in the story of Lagos. Now, enter the family fights that changed everything. By the 1840s, the throne of Lagos was contested between two men, Oba Akitoye the uncle and Kosoko his ambitious nephew. In 1845, Kosoko seized the throne. Akitoye fled, and a king in exile is a desperate man. Akitoye went looking for a powerful friend, and he found one, Britain. Now, Britain had conveniently recently turned against the slave trade it once profited from, and was patrolling the coast to stop it. Akitoye made them an offer: help me take back my throne, and I will end the slave trade in Lagos. Kosoko, meanwhile, was pro-slave trade. For the British, the math was simple. December 1851, British warships appeared before Lagos and opened fire. They called it the reduction of Lagos. Kosoko fought back hard, but cannons are cannons. He fled to Ekpe. Akitoye got his throne back. But he get as he be, because who returned him? Britain. And when somebody returns your throne, they keep a receipt. In January 1852, Akitoye signed a treaty ending the slave trade in Lagos and opening the door to British protection. The landlord had a new caretaker, and the caretaker had gumboots. Akitoye died the following year, 1853. His son, Dosunmu, became Oba. The British spelled his name Dosemu. They couldn't even spell the man's name, but they would soon own his kingdom. Dosumu's reign was pressure from every side. Kosoko was still nearby, plotting. British merchants and consuls were running more and more of Lagos business, and far away in London, the British Prime Minister, Lord Palmerston, looked at the map. French ships sniffing around the coast, trade to protect, and decided, no more half measures, take Lagos formally. July 30th, 1861, Dosunmu is invited aboard a British warship sitting in Lagos Harbour. HMS Prometheus. On board were acting Consul William McCoskrie and Commander Norman Bedingfield. They slide the paper across, cede Lagos to Queen Victoria permanently. Dosunmu said no. He needed to consult his chiefs. He was not signing away his father's land. And the British response? Commander Bedingfield made it very clear. Sign, or Lagos gets the same cannons that removed Kosoko. For days, Dosunmu resisted, with the guns of the Prometheus pointed at his town the whole time. Sign, or we scatter everywhere. On August 6, 1861, he gave in and make his mark on the Treaty of Cession. Lagos, the port, the highland, the territories ceded to Britain in perpetuity, forever. Dosunmu kept the title of Oba, kept the right to settle small disputes among his people, and received a pension of about £1,000 a year. Some records say slightly more. Either way, a kingdom exchanged for a salary. The following year, Lagos officially became a British Crown colony, the first solid foothold of what would eventually become colonial Nigeria. The whole thing, 1914 amalgamation, everything, it starts here, on this island, with this signature. So, who sold Lagos? The Awori settled it. Benin claimed it and installed its kings. The Portuguese named it, and Britain took it with a warship in the harbour and a pension as the receipt. That's not a sale, that's a collection with paperwork. And here's the part that they don't teach. Descendants of Dosunmu have gone to court in modern times, arguing about that 1861 treaty and what is owned. 160 years later, the paperwork of that one August day is still being argued. Lagos was never sold. Lagos was taken. But how did Britain go from one island to swallowing everything from Sokoto to Calabar? That one a long story, and it involves a woman who named the whole country from her sitting room. We'll meet again in the next episode.